Now, more than a year ago, a rare event occurred in the Middle East. Thousands of Israeli and Palestinian women marching for peace throughout Israel and the West Bank made their way to Jerusalem. Organised by Women Wage Peace, more than 30,000 marched throughout Israel and Palestine, demanding an end to the conflict. Among them was Huda Abu Arqoub, a Palestinian activist from Hebron and regional director for the Alliance for Middle East Peace. And she joins me today in the studio. Huda, thank you so much for your time. Now, as a former Middle East correspondent who spent many years in the region, I have to ask you, after seemingly endless conflict, we now have a stalemate in peace talks. How do you maintain your positivity?
From women and youth in Palestine and in Israel who are not given in to despair. Women are the ones who are shaking the grounds in Israel and Palestine, changing the narrative about Israelis and Palestinians. It's not only about the polarization and the right and wrong. It's about an effort of human beings, especially women, who need to be brought to the table. Their voices must be heard, and I see that coming more and more. The more the situation, politically speaking, is bad, women come forward.
Now, Palestinian women were very much present during the first Intifada. 25 years on, that's certainly not the case. Why have they been sidelined?
Because this is how politics work in conflict zones. It's always the men who call the shots. And I think this is one major issue that is not looked at in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, that women were completely excluded, especially in the 80s, when the wave of religious extremism came and women were asked to stay home. We were always in the streets. We were always holding the grounds for the men who were not around. And now we are not necessarily brought to the table, and I think it's time.
But what does their absence at the table mean for the Palestinian cause?
First of all, the lack of creativity when it comes to coming to solutions, the sense and the feeling that women have for needs, and the vision for future. And I might add also the fact that women are not brought because they are the ones who move things forward. They don't give in to installment.
So I would assume that you would agree that women do make better peacemakers.
Of course, because they have the willingness and the mechanism and sometimes, and in many cases, the strategy to move forward. They have so much on stake. And one of those are their sons and daughters who are paying the price for this conflict.
Are there Israeli women that you've met with who you connect with on this level, who you feel together you can work towards some sort of an agreement?
In one day, 40 women, Israeli and Palestinians, were not talking about themselves as Israeli and Palestinians. They were talking about a group of women who's going to change the dynamics of this conflict and reclaim life and hope back to our lives.
So how do you make that happen? How do you get those women involved to the point where their voices are in fact being heard?
Focusing on the future. What is it that we need for us in order to live in a dignified community that acknowledges the women's participation fully and rights in deciding the future of Palestine.
But if you look at the Palestinians and the Israelis, and in terms of political leadership, it's all dominated very much by men, and men of a certain age.
So we need to act now in order to help the future have people who are not the same as we have now.
So how do you do that?
You coach the new generation. You teach them how to be feminist, inclusive political activists and leaders.
Now, this is a region that I see as being full of hatred and violence on all sides. Is there a glimmer of hope at all?
Of course. We cannot afford losing hope, especially women. This is our survivorhood mechanism. And for the Palestinians, steadfastness means that we have to continue hoping that the future is going to change. And my goal now, at least at this point, is to include more young female and male Palestinians into the conversation. Because what we are experiencing now is that sense of apathy and loss of a collective story for the Palestinians. And it's about time to reclaim it.
And are you getting the sense that there are young Palestinian men who are interested in hearing what you have to say as a woman?
more than you can think and more than what I can handle as one person who's working with young refugees from refugee camps who are talking about different strategies to approach the right of return. I think it's time to listen to those. The middle age in the West Bank is 20 and in Gaza is 16, and we don't mention Gaza that often, but it's time to have young leaders among us who speak the language of today.
Huda, it's been great speaking to you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.